Hi there. It's good to be here again to serve you with this week's edition of the Premium Times podcast. I'm your host, Tilope Fadare. Remember back when President Muhammadu Buhari's publicist, Femi Adesina, said Nigeria will win and Aye, which people like to call village people, will lose. Shortly after that, Abubakar Shekau, the former Boko Haram leader, died during an infighting in a terrorist camp. This week, another enemy of the state, the leader of the Islamic State West Africa province, Abu Musab al-Banawi, is dead. Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, Lucky Irabo, announced the death but did not disclose details. The leadership of the late jihadist leader, al-Banawi, made ISWAP a dominant terrorist group after it seized power from the late Boko Haram leader, Abubakar Shekau. The group has been striking frequently at troops, resulting in the death of more than 40,000 since it began in 2009. Since splitting with Boko Haram in 2016, the group has shown its resilience and carried out large-scale ambushes on the military in the past weeks. The operation to kill the deadly terrorists was in collaboration with neighboring countries to tackle various forms of insecurity. Safe to say Nigeria to village people, zero. Talking about Femi Adesina, he did what he does well. Okutomiyomio. He said he was old enough to have seen many Nigerian leaders in action. In Adesina's wisdom, Buhari had a better appeal than every one of them. He said the likes of Obafemi Awolowo, the charismatic Nnamdi Azikiwe, Zik of Africa, Shehu Shagari, Aminu Kano, MK Abiola, Bashiru Tofa, and many others were not as accepted as Buhari. Not many would have taken Mr. Adesina serious first, because this was an opinion not formulated by empirical research, but rather the quest to keep his checkbook from adding more zeros. He's lucky Nigeria is in the country that uses ratings to judge its leaders' acceptability on certain indices. The journalist turned presidential praise singer would have got his result. Meanwhile, a survey by African Polling Institute showed that more than 7 in 10 Nigerians, that's 73%, said they would relocate abroad with family members if they had an opportunity. In 2019, those seeking to relocate were about 3 in 10, 32%. This was not unconnected to the substantial decline in the level of trust that citizens had for the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, as only about 26% said they had a lot of trust and some trust in President Buhari, as against 42% in 2019. Mr. Adesina should know better, well, if his journalism is not rusty yet, that independent sources like the survey are better than independent sources like himself. The will of some Nigerians prevailed at the National Assembly after the Senate rescinded decision on some clauses in the Electoral Amendment Bill that was passed in July. One of the clauses was Clause 52, which deals with the methods of voting and collation of results in an election. The Senate amended the clause to let the electoral umpire, INEC, determine the use of electronic voting and transfer of results. The Senate also amended Clause 87 of the bill to mandate political parties to hold only direct primaries for candidates seeking elective positions. In July, the Senate empowered Nigerian Communications Commission and the National Assembly to determine the use of electronic transmission of results in an election. Leaders of the People's Democratic Party in the North endorsed a former Senate President, Iyorchia Ayu, as their consensus candidate for the party's national chairman in the forthcoming national convention scheduled for 30 and 31 October. This became so after a former governor of Katsina State, Ibrahim Shema, and a former senator from Bauchi State, Abdul Ningi, withdrew from the race. This is not the full news. The meat of the development is that PDP may likely zone its presidential candidate ticket to the south, leaving perennial presidential hopefuls like Atiku Abubakar and now Bukola Saraki out in the cold. The decision almost certainly will also inform other parties like the APC on how to zone its presidential ticket. Whichever way it goes, Nigeria must triumph. As always, this edition was written by Yusuf Akinkwelu. I am Slope Father. See you next week, and please do not forget, if you like this podcast, please share and favorite, and also visit premiumtimesng.com to catch all the latest edition of this podcast series.